Hey guys, it's Misty with My Paper Cuts, and I'm back on today with another card share for my Halloween series called Craftin from the Shadows. For today's card, I wanted to use this background stamp that I had recently gotten from Tim Holtz called Bubbles. I was obsessed with this when he first revealed it. It took me a hot minute to get it, but I'm so glad that I did. It is just this amazing texture that I will use a lot. So I wanted to use that. I'm going to get that out of screen because of the glare. And I also, unfortunately, I had this die. Now, like me, you'll probably recognize this as a Tim Holtz die. However, I bought this, it was either in a yard sale or a D-stash. I bought this secondhand. It was in a storage pocket. I didn't think anything of it when I got it because I recognized the shape and I knew I didn't have it. However, apparently this is an alley die. This is not an original Tim Holtz die. It must have been in a D-stash because I would have known in person that it wasn't because it doesn't have any Sizzix markings on it. So I'm kind of bummed. To make up for it, I went ahead and ordered the real thing. I was able to get my hands on it, so this will be going away. For those of you who don't know, I don't approve of Ali, especially copies. I was really upset when I figured out that this was a copy of his set, because it was a set that I'd wanted for a long time. And it, like I said, it must have been in a D-stash because I would not have gotten it if I had seen it in person. So just a heads up, when you D-stash, you might want to mention if any of your dies are from Ali, for those of us who don't want to support any copies like this. So I'm so glad that the real one's on its way. I also use these ink colors here, which is why I set them out. And I'm going to go ahead and share my card, and then I'll go over the details of it. So for this background, which was pretty extensive, I started out with Bristol Smooth paper, and I ink blended these colors, and they're actually in the wrong order here. I ink blended kind of in an ombre style from Lucky Clover to Mowed Lawn, Twisted Citron, with just a touch of squeezed lemonade on the top. I originally was only going to do these three colors, but because I was doing it on the Bristol Smooth, the Twisted Citron was reading just yellow. It literally just looked yellow, and I really wanted, this is one of my very favorite colors, and so I added just a little bit of the squeezed lemonade to the top to make this more obviously green. So it was just a little bit of that squeezed lemonade. So I ink blended the background, and then I splattered it with I actually sprayed Wicked Elixir, which is the green mica spray stain, the mica stain from this year, along with Decayed, which is my favorite color from this year. I love this color. It's unpredictable, and I love it. It's just mysterious. It's delicious. So that is splattered on the background. And what I've done is I actually had kind of a sample one that I was playing with while I was doing that, so I could hold it up close for you guys to see. So the green I actually sprayed, and then the Decayed, I pulled the topper off, and I just used the straw from the inside just to make some drops of the Decayed, because I didn't want the Decayed to take over the green theme here. And then once all that was dry, I stamped the background with the bubble stamp, this one here that I showed at the beginning. I stamped that with embossing ink, and I used Rustic Wilderness embossing glaze on it. And I wanted to use embossing glaze because I didn't want to lose the full ombre, and you can kind of see through it. So it definitely is, if you can tell here, the embossing glaze definitely looks darker and then lighter depending on what color it's on top of. So I wanted the green on green, and I wanted the shine, because it just kind of reminded me of the like witchy cauldron, or just a creepy background. And I do associate green with witches. So, and then I inked around with black to see how that would look. And that's what I ended up doing on the card as well. But I cut out the background that I created with this die set from Penny Black. This, I think it's just called Deckled Rectangles or something. but I know a lot of people have deckled rectangles. I just like these penny black ones because the decals are very pronounced. It's not subtle at all. So I cut out the background with that, and then I inked it with a little bit of black. And then the witch herself, she is just die cut out of heavyweight black cardstock. And originally I was going to do the mica crayons and give her some color. And I did experiment with that a little bit here, but I didn't really like the way it looked. It wasn't what I was going for. And like I said, the crayons are not something I normally play with, but I am trying. So I didn't like that effect. I wanted to keep her as a silhouette, but I decided to make her a crusty old bag. So I added, this was another one that I experimented with. I added some of the Crypt paste. The grit paste and Crypt, I guess it's called. I did order the big one this year, but I'm still working on my little bottles from last year. But I wanted her to look crunchy and, you know, crusty old lady. So I just tested it on there, and I like the way that it dried. So that's how she ended up all crusty on the card. So hopefully you can see that. And I didn't put any of the crust on the cat. I thought I'd give the cat a break. And then the Wicked sentiment is, and this is going to upset people because I know a lot of people have been looking for this set. This is from the Handwritten Halloween. If somebody really, really wants this set, I did see it on Mercari for $65, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. But this is kind of one of my favorite die sets for Halloween. It is a bit touchy to use because they are very fine. It is a very fine font. And my original plan was I took some paper and I just hit my embossing pad all over it and then just made some Twisted Citron paper basically. And you can see I tested it. But because the embossing glaze seems to be, it's more plastic to me than regular embossing powder. So the die got really stuck, like the paper got really stuck in the die, and when I pulled it out, it tore because it is such a fine die. So what I did was I went ahead and I cut it out of white, and then I also cut it out of black just to give it some more stability. And once the layers were glued together and they were dry, then I just embossed the word itself. And I did double emboss it with the embossing glaze. I could have just colored it, but I wanted the shine. I wanted that shine and that kind of just, you know, the thicker consistency on the top of it rather than just color. I don't like to mess with the eye in that word because it is so tiny. So I just used one of those oils like diamond dots to dot the eye. And then this Something Dreadfully is from another one of Tim's stamp sets that I got recently, which is called Tiny Text Halloween. And it's this one right here that says Something Dreadfully Wicked. And so what I did was I just inked up the Something Dreadfully and white heat embossed that on the black. I just didn't ink up the Wicked so that I could replace it with the die cut word. So that is raised up on a little bit of foam to allow room for the Wicked underneath. And then the edges of that I did use just a little bit of this white gold wax from Prima just to age the edges of it a little bit. But I like how when it's white heat embossed like that, it looks like the old label makers. And I love I like his stickers that are like this. And so I was tickled to get the stamp set so I could always make my own however I wanted to. So definitely a worthwhile investment if you like those little sentiment stickers that he does. So like I said, that's popped up on foam and you can see all the Crypt paste that's on there. And then for the inside of the card, I took the bubble stamp again and I used the Twisted Citron and the Oxide and I inked up the stamp. I removed the first generation of the ink and then I just tapped my white piece of paper down. I just tapped it down just to get the corners with a little bit of texture, but not the full intensity of the ink. So each one has just that a little bit, and they're all different. So the inside stamped differently on every one of them. And then the sentiment is from this set from Tim called Monstrous. I like these sentiments because they're very distressed and I don't know, they're just really cool. So it's just the Wishing You a Spooky Halloween. So that is my card, and I originally was going to do 8, but I did 7 because that background I was just kind of playing with as I was doing it. And like I said, you can see the inside will be just a little bit different on each one. And each one is inked a little bit different and stamped a little bit different, so they all have their own unique personalities. Some have more of the grit paste than others, but it was really fun. It was a little more technique heavy than usual, but I really enjoyed getting messy. This one has a lot of the paste on it, but I really like the idea of her being a crusty old witch. There's the inside. And this is the last one. So sorry this video was so long. It looks like a pretty simple card, but it did entail a lot of work, but it was so much fun to do. And thank you, P, for keeping me company while I was doing those backgrounds, and I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.